Hi there. Oh dear. Right. This one's taken me quite a long time to get ready to prepare for this video, so that's why I haven't been here for a little while. So quite a lot to cover today. This is all about, Mary, you asked about quilting, cushion fronts, things like that. So I thought I'd do a whole 30, hopefully a bit more than 30 minutes. If not, I'll cover it over two shows, but my phone tends to only allow me 30 minutes and then it cuts off to two. So straight in, what I recommend first of all before you do anything is to cut yourself a piece of fabric, preferably the fabric you're going to be using for your project, and make yourself a colour chart. So all I've done here is I've done some copier paper, painted the little colour charts, colour pieces onto some copier paper, and then I've stuck them onto a larger sheet. Now, when you transfer it, obviously the lettering won't be transferred. What I usually do is I just staple the fabric to the piece of paper, and then you've got it all in front of you. And then, you know, if you're going to use something completely different, then I would recommend doing another one. So I'm just going to pop that in while I get on with the next thing. So I've got my press here. If you're doing it by with your iron, no problem at all. You just place the fabric onto. You'd put your piece of work. Let me do it the other way around. Put your fabric down, then your project, and then just a piece of silicone over the top of that. Maybe just a cloth, and just press that through. You know, obviously now I've got my heat press at last, so only one box down at the moment. So I'm just going to pop that there, and then we can get started on something else while this one takes. If you're lucky enough to have the heat press, I have put it on my blog, the link to the one I recommend. It's on eBay. So the man there, as I've said in my blog, he will accept an offer, and all the information's on there. So if you want to go and have a look at the link, do that. I'm pressing mine. I've done quite a lot of samples, which I'll show you a bit later if I remember. I've done them to get the ideal temperature. I've just taken little swatches, a little bit of colour, and then I've done them at varying degrees of temperature. You don't need to waste lots of fabric, just some old scraps, and do that. So I'm not going to show you marbling today because obviously everyone knows about marbling, but I want to get the marbling piece going so that I can show you a little bit. Oh, there you go. Oh, should have known it wouldn't go smoothly, shouldn't I? So, I mean, most people know how to do your marbling technique. If you don't, then I am just going to do a quick one here, simply because I want the phone set up to show you something that I like to do. So, probably far too much there. Be careful with these because I bought two and I saw one on offer. This one was this one was cheaper. The other one was a little bit more expensive, but if you have a look, exactly the same size tin. This was only 250ml, the other one was 300, so this one's better value. Normally I would check. Right, so this is going off now, so let's turn that off. So yeah, for my machine I've done this on 350 degrees, and it's for 70 seconds. Now let's just take off that. Please have worked. Right, yeah, so here's our colour chart now, transferred. And then if you have a look next to your, let's have a look, it's, yeah, that way round. So we've got obviously the reverse there, so we've got your gold and all your other colours on there, which will give you a really good reference, and they're the colours that are going to come out on the particular fabric that you've got. So that was something I did want to show you. So we put that aside for now. I'm running out of space already and I haven't started. Let's just throw that on the floor over there for now. Right, so back to this. So I usually just get a fork, smooth it over a little bit. I mean, there's so many different ways of marbling, you know, some people do it differently. This is the way I do it. There's no right and wrong, whatever you're happy doing. So just give that a... You don't want it completely smooth because you want the texture to come through. Put the fork aside, and then here I'm going to use, let's have a look. I'm going to use the blue and the cobalt. They're quite similar, but you do get a difference on your marbling. So just a few drops of that. Again, you know, showing you just how far they go. And what I didn't do is shake that. I do recommend that you just give it a quick old shake. Sometimes the pigments, because they're pigment rich, so just make sure that you give them a good old shake. And then I just disperse that ink a little bit, just so that it's not any definite blobs through there. And now I tend not to do too much of a mix here, not to disturb it too much. And then a piece of copy paper onto the ink, very light press, and then peel back. Put that aside. So you get lovely and messy. And then just with your ruler, just scrape down to remove the excess foam. Leave the foam on the ruler. So there we've got a nice piece of marbling just to set aside and to dry. You can see you've got some really lovely patterns on there. Put that there to dry. Oh, I just wanted to say my new hat, thank you Gina from New York. You might have seen a post that mine was ruined by little Penny when she was a puppy, so this is my replacement. Love it. It's lighter than the other one, but it's fantastic, really lovely. Right, so next you've got a piece of copy paper, just a little something extra that I like to do with my stencils. So I've got all of the 8s here, one of my favourites. I'm going to place it down onto my copy of paper, and the ruler that's got the foam on it, what I do is I like to drag that across. Just drag it over once, just go over that little bit there again. There we are. And then you can scrape this off or leave it on for another go. I try and keep this top piece clean because then I can put the stencil again on there. So I'm just going to scrape that off for now. And then just scrape the excess off here. Scrape that into your tub. Now sometimes you're lucky and you can get another print off this. So I usually keep just a piece of scrap paper for this, just in case the print isn't very good. Just place that over and give it a nice wipe across, just to remove the excess foam that's in the grooves. Peel that off. Whoops, lazy. So peel that off. Now actually I've got not a bad old print there, so I'll probably keep that, let it dry and see what it does. 'Cause it does come in handy. If you do this a bit further on down the edge, because I don't usually do it straight away from, usually I've done maybe 20-25 sheets of marbling, and then I'll use the older bit, so you get a lot more stratation through there. So this one's done quite early on, and now the stencil's going to not come off, just to be a nuisance. I might do another one just to show you a bit better, because this one's not going to be ideal. I've got one that I did before. not usually as difficult as this. There we are. So actually that's not too bad. So that will give you a really nice pattern when you transfer that onto fabric. Alright, so that's just one idea of using the marbling for another effect. Now I'll just quickly give this a quick old tidy up and put the other stuff away, and then I can get on with the other things. So let's put that marbling aside. Excuse me. Because that'll go on and on and on for ages, and you know, don't waste it. You can get, I think yesterday I did some marbling for some of the things I'm going to show you, and I got at least, out of one I got 43 sheets of patterning, which, you know, considering you're only using a few drops of ink, if you find that your ink with your foam is getting too mixed up, you can always just put a few more drops of the ink. So next I'm going to quickly show you the prefixer. So what I've got here is I've got some calico. You can see there's no coating on it as such. It doesn't feel coated. So this is just a regular piece of calico, which is obviously a natural fibre. So with these paints, as I've explained before, they don't work particularly well on natural fibre. You are best with your mixes of 50-50, polycotton or higher. But with your prefixer, it gives you the beauty of being able to use your natural fibres as well. So this is the prefixer. All you do is you paint the prefixer onto the surface that you're going to do. So if you wanted to use a cotton t-shirt, just the panel that you're doing, or a piece of panel on the sleeve, or just maybe some, you know, do an emblem. So all you do is you paint the prefixer exactly where you're going to want your design. Leave that to dry. I usually dry it overnight, and then the next day you're ready. So what I've done here is I've just chosen a couple of strips of colour, and I've used the dolphins there as well, because what I've done here is I've only painted half just to show you the difference. It will print on this, but it will be a lot more faded, and also it won't be washable without. With the prefixer, it will still rinse out, but it won't. It will fade, but it won't fade like it would if you just did it on the regular natural fibres. It just gives you an option of doing something different, using some different fabrics. Just position that a bit better. So I'll pop that under, and then we'll quickly go on to something else that I've been doing to show you. So pop that on. And just have a quick sip of drink. Right, so marbling. I've done the marbling. Here's one of the stencils I've done. I've used it for another project. As I said, I usually put two onto one sheet. So that's what I've just done. We've also got the roses. Now, if I'm using it like here, I've just used one of the stencils rather than do it the other way. I've used it lengthways, but these give you the most fantastic strips if you want to do the crazy quilting. You know, you can just cut those off, use this for one project, use that for another project, or just cut a panel in that and then use this as your edging strips. So that's that, and there's actually another one that I've done there. This is one that I just did 2 and 2. This flourish gives a really nice effect if you do that on a quilt as well. So there's those 3 out of the way. Right, so I did the marbling with the blue, and then I've stamped with the dolphin. Just pop that off for a minute and just lift it up. Yeah, so here I've done my marbling, then with the black I've stamped the dolphin onto there, and then just cut those out, and that'll show you. I'll show you what I've done with 2 of those ideas. I'll just put this down as well. There's so much to show. You can see why it took me quite a while to get all this prepped for this video. So let's do this. I'll leave that on just in case we get a chance to do anything else afterwards. So there you are, there's the difference. So that's the part of the calico that was used with the heat, the prefixer. And then if we move over, that is the without the prefixer. So you can see the colours aren't as rich. You don't get that really nice richness of the colour. Here I've used, on this one I used burgundy and cobalt. The dolphin was aqua, so it is a subtle look. If you want a deeper look on your dolphins, which I've actually got over there, I'll show you that in a minute. You can choose to use deeper blues. For the project I was doing at the time, I did want a lighter blue, so that's why I chose that colour. That's when your colour chart comes in handy. So I just did the same on a mug. So here I made myself a mug. You all know how I like the dolphins, and of course it was my first set of stamps of the dolphins, so you know, I thought I'd make myself a mug. So that's how I've done that. Just quite a plain mug, but I thought it was quite nice to do that. And then here I've got the dolphins. These are slightly deeper blue, so I've done that as well just to show you. And that, as I say, was just done how I've just explained. So put those down there. Right, so next, I'm not a great quilter. I'm not an expert. I just dabble, but there are always things I like to do. So I bought a long time ago the dies from Crafts Companion to do that because I'm hopeless at cutting out. I'm useless with a rotary cutter, so that put me off because I bought lovely fabrics to make a quilt, and I did a couple of cuts and it was a disaster, and I wasn't going to ruin expensive fabric because I couldn't cut it out. So then I bought the quilting dies. They were great, fantastic. I really liked those, but I don't want to knock anything. I found that they cut into my plates quite a lot, unless I layered up lots of fabric. Sometimes I didn't want to use lots and lots of fabric, so I put them aside. Although I do love them, I would recommend them if you don't mind them cutting your plates. There was a lot of other things I wanted to do, and even with the really accurate dies, my sewing skills aren't good enough to do the smaller, more intricate patterns. So for me, these paints are brilliant. Not only that I can cheat, which I'll show you in a minute, but I get my own fabrics, my designs, my colours, and that's what I really love, because you can do a bespoke quilt exactly how you like if you've got a stamp that you particularly like. As I said before, some of the stamps don't work. I've got some, I love the picture this stamps, and I really, really wanted to get one on a t-shirt, but I found even with the thickener I wasn't getting a good enough print on my paper to transfer. I will try again with different levels of the thickener, because I'm determined to get it onto a t-shirt one day. If I get a fix for that and get exactly the measurements I need to be able to do that, then obviously I'll share them. So be careful with your stamps. The beauty of quilting, the beauty of these paints, is that you put them onto copy paper first. So if you're not happy with the design when you stamp, or all you've lost is a bit of copy paper, you haven't lost a lovely piece of fabric, because if you're not happy with it on the paper, you don't transfer it. I've done lots of things that I thought would look absolutely fantastic. When I've come to do them on my copy paper, I've thought that is just no good, that isn't going to work for me, so I haven't wasted anything. So just really simply, first of all, what I do is I've got a grid. Now this is I started off really simply, so literally two 2-inch squares, a little grid on a piece of copy paper, 2-inch squares, and then what I've done is here I've used these are gorgeous. This is done on the jelly plate with the extender. It thickens the paint. Sorry, it's thickener, isn't it? I keep calling it something else, sorry. A little brush on of the thickener onto your jelly plate, a few drops of the colour, swirl it round, you get some fantastic patterns. Really interesting to look at. Maybe not so much on a 2x2, but if you do a big square, then they really look good. So I've done that, and I can't. Where did I put the? So look, put that there. I've got this. This is what I've done. So that is a 6x6 panel ready done. So I haven't got to fiddle around stitching all those together. I've got a panel right away, straight away, with all my own fabrics, all my own fabric designs. No one else will have it. This is very boutique-y. You'll look at those ones. I mean, you get some super results there. I will show you how I've done it on the jelly plate at a later date, but I wanted to go on to this first. So that is my panel. So I've done hundreds and hundreds of these panels. Doesn't take long, because you just cut out a wedge of, you just cut your little 2x2s that you've painted, arrange them onto your design. So let's just do a quick design here. So there we go, I've got a quick design there. Oh, you can see it without holding it up. Hopefully you can see it. So anyway, you just saw what I had with the pattern. Let's just see if I can see one again. Oh, yeah, no, I'm not going to find one now. Right, so let's leave that aside. So anyway, that's your 2x2 pattern. So a lot of people can do 2x2 patterns, but you know, so here are a few I've done. So there's the 2x2 that I've just shown you and just put together. I'm not going to show you all of these because there's just too many. I've done another one that's the blue and white stripe. I've done another one that's just plain. That's with marbling. Then I decided that I'd do the 3x3, and then I've done your pinwheel. A bit more extravagant. I've done your large pinwheel there. They're the ones I have big trouble with, is the smaller designs. So let's just have another little look at what I've got here that I can share with you. Right, so here we've got, if I show you what I've done first. So what I showed you earlier is using the stencil. So I've got the stencil there, then I've got the marbling. Here I used aqua and some of the, I should write them down. And so that is, let's see if I can hold it behind the paper. And there we are. So that is my transfer then. So I mean, I just love this fabric. It's just stunning. You knew that I'd be doing blues, I'm sure. You know, I always do blues. And having a blue, this one I did use my stamps here. Stamped a whole sheet of them and then cut them down 3x3, and then I've just got my grid, and that's my fabric. So you can either leave your fabric like that and join it up. Another idea is you can, once they're all together, is just do a light stitch down across if you want to make it look more quilted. But once they're together, they do look really good. That's my black. I'll just put those aside. So the next step, after you've got your 4 panels like this, is to stitch them together like that. So here I've stitched them together. I've been lazy there. What I do recommend is when you print this, leave yourself enough so you can do 1/4 of an inch. Lay it down. Cut your 1/4 of an inch seam allowance all the way round, and then join them together, and then you've got no trouble. Here's the one. So all I've done is I've stitched it across here. So I've stitched my first panel together, first double panel, second double panel, and then I've stitched them together down the centre there. So that's it, and that has given me a, well, it's got to be 12x12, isn't it? Yep, that's given me a 12 by 12 panel, and then I do more and then join them together as well. So that's minutes, and I'm telling you, if I did that even with the dies, that would take me a long time. As I say, I'm not an expert sewer by any means. So here's the, I'm just going to show you this one. This is the one I found was best for the colour. So I do mine at 350 and for 70 seconds. And for me, that's perfect. So as you can see, I did quite a few test runs on different temperatures just to get the best one for this particular fabric. So with the quilt part that I just showed you, I wanted my edging as well. So what I did here was I did 1 by 1 inch. Never in a month Sundays would I stitch those together properly. I may stitch the first two, or I might even stitch all of each individual pair perfectly, but then when I come to start joining them together, that is when I always go wrong. So now I've got, this is on the same fabric that I'm going to use for that. So here's my my fabric. So I've got 2 of the longer pieces, which are there, and then I've got the 2 shorter pieces here. So you'll have your panel, and then you'll lie that down. You'll lie those, so you'll have your piece of work in your. Oh, come to me, Nick. Come to me. It's gonna go. You'll have your quilted piece there, or your patchwork piece there, and then you've got these that will go around the edge. So then you stitch the shorter sides first, and then obviously the longer side together. So that gives you that. So I just think there's people out there I know that will be screaming and going, "Oh no, you can't do that, you can't do that." I'm happy. I'm happy that I've got bespoke fabric that no one else will have. I've got a quilt design that no one else will have. The colour mix completely exactly how I want it, and I haven't had the hassle of stitching all those together, which I don't want to do. I'm not good enough. So that's that. So I hope I'm not going too fast. It's just that I've had, I just wanted to show you as much as I could. So then I've brought in the other colour. So here I've got orange and blue. Top tip: if you paint a piece of paper with a blank colour, write down on the back in pencil or pen the colour, because some of the colours look very similar on the back, and if you've got a pile like this of all your colours and you're looking through and you want a blue and you think, oh no, is that blue, or is it navy, or is it aqua, or just easy peasy, paint your work, write on it, and then you know exactly what colours what. Because I tell you, when you get started with it, you're going to get so addicted. So then I started playing around with the other thing. That's just reminded me of something. There's lots of glues I love. I love Cosmic Shimmer glue. I love the Crafts Companion tacky glue. I love Phil Martin's glue. Top tip, I think it was Diane, I think quite a few weeks ago, I think we were having a chat, weren't we, about marks coming through. Now I hadn't had it before because I'd been using Phil Martin's glue, the Sentimentally Yours. I hadn't had any problems. This, I used the tacky glue yesterday because I hadn't got any. Now I found that sometimes it comes through. Now I'm not particularly worried about that because I tried to get texture into these, so I'm not worried about it particularly on these pieces. If you've got a really nice pattern that you want to do, you don't want to waste it with glue. So I'd either use something that isn't water-based glue, maybe a spray, the spray adhesive. They will drop off when you heat them, but they should stay on long enough on your project to iron them. So I would honestly either invest in a really top glue like the Phil Martin's glue. I don't get this. I'm going to try and find you a really bad one because, right, yes, so this one is quite bad, and although I want texture and it doesn't bother me on this, if you were doing something super duper, I don't think you'd want the glue marks coming through. It's just a tip. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you what you can and can't do. It's just a tip that I've found that, for me, Phil's glue seems to do the trick without any problem whatsoever. Now, I've done some larger sheets here. I think these are 8. Yeah, these are 8 by 8, so this is for a different quilt. So I've got the marbling one that I've done. This is going to go on to 2 videos because I've just gone over 30 minutes. So if it does go on to 2, there'll be a link for the second part if it does break it into 2. Right, so yeah, here we've got marbling one that I've done, and that'll be the marbling the second one, and then here I've got an 8 by 8 which I've done the 2 by 2 squares. So this could quite easily be a really nice cushion front, and I'm going to show you that quickly, just lay it out. So let's get rid of those pieces of paper. You can try and use these again. You won't get as much, you won't get a very super duper rich colour, but you will get some colour. Maybe not for a quilt, but maybe for another project or just to add some background colour. I'm just going to get all these out of the way. Right, so again, Nick the lazy boy. He's not done his 1/4 of an inch, has he? So I will do before I stitch these together. So I'm just going to see if I can finger press these and give you an idea. So I would stitch those 2 together. Then I would repeat that with the other 2. So then I would stitch that one to, well, I wouldn't, what I'd do is I'd stitch them in pairs. So I'd stitch that and that together first, and then I would stitch that and that together, and then I would join this and this and stitch that together. So I'm just going to quickly show you that. So that gives you a rough idea. Hopefully that's alright for you. So that was just another piece. So I'll just put those aside. Blues again, I'm